Okay, so today it's quite a difficult topic for South Africans. I think anybody who is, working in South Africa, whether it be a teacher or whatever you're doing, load shedding is not the best news ever, and it's not the most liked topic to talk about. But we're going to be talking about teaching online during load shedding and when load shedding happens. So firstly, I know load shedding has affected my ability to teach online, and it's become more and more tricky as it's been happening a lot more frequently.
Yeah.
So let's start with you. How does load shedding affect your ability to teach online and when you're kind of in your peak hours?
All right. So first of all, it is extremely stressful. It's a type of stress that you really can't describe. You just feel like, you know. So basically what I've realized, if you don't have backups, it's very, very bad because you could be letting your students down and they, might be waiting in the class for you and you don't show up because you don't have the right backup in place. You could get fines, which is really, really bad because then you're actually losing money at the end of the day. Or you could actually lose your job because then you're not seen as reliable. So those stressful factors always play on my mind. I hate it if people feel or think that I am not reliable. So yes, load shedding is awful. It is stressful. And for you?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's like the worst feeling ever when you've forgotten load shedding's gonna happen and it's like 5 minutes before your lesson. So for me, it's really affected my ability to teach. I've invested in really good backups to make sure that, that doesn't happen to me and I'm not missing lessons because of it. But at the same time, it's also, like you said, it's a very stressful situation to be in because you're relying on your power or your electricity to do your job. For me, the biggest issue and the biggest reason for it affecting my teaching is the unstable internet connection I have then. So I'm switching over, obviously, and sometimes initially it'll just not be the greatest connection, and that would affect like the beginning few minutes of my lesson. And like you said, it doesn't reflect great on you as a teacher. I mean, your students not really caring if you're having load shedding or not.
And they don't understand.
Yeah, exactly. They're just there for the lesson. So I definitely agree with the whole stressful situation, and it definitely, as a South African, it does impact your ability to teach online, and it does just throw those extra curveballs in.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
So speaking of that, what type of backups do you have?
So this is quite cool. I always like to know what other people are doing. So for me, I've just invested in, I just recently bought a new one, a UPS, which works really well with me because it allows me to kind of also travel when I need to, so I can just take it with me. And then I'm just basically working on fiber and then switching over my fiber, obviously into my UPS. And if that fails, I use my phone as a hotspot. So I just make sure that I have, enough data on there to last for however long I'm teaching. And that works pretty well, but that is my like last resort if everything else fails. How about you?
So I'm actually quite lucky. I've recently moved into a place where we have solar panels. So for me, if there is load shedding, I'm like, oh, okay, whatever, So right now, like I've been really lucky, but I do also have a UPS just in case something happens, because I find that you need to have a backup for your backup.
Definitely.
Because you just never know what is going to go wrong. And especially if you're having back-to-back classes, and and my UPS, I think it only lasts about 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to teach like for 4 hours, it's not going to be enough.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
always have a backup for your backup.
Definitely. Good advice. I agree.
Yeah.
Although I haven't had an issue with it being off for more than 2 hours. So my backups kind of lasted me, which is great. But when you mentioned those back-to-back lessons, it made me think of an experience I had where I was in my lesson and I completely forgot that it was, our time for load shedding was going to happen. And I had that 5 minutes between my two classes and it kicked off and I was sitting there and I just went, oh no. And I think it was like the fastest I've ever moved. I had to switch over internet and there's like that initial 1 to 2 minutes where you got to wait for it to kind of kick back on. And I was so stressed out. So if I could give anyone advice teaching online in South Africa, it would just be to be on top of the schedule and make sure you know when it's going to happen, and then possibly try and kind of like switch over onto your backup before it goes off.
Yes.
I just find that works the best. And that would probably eliminate any kind of issue you'd have, with connection or not being able to get into the online classroom and that kind of thing. So how about you? Have you had any fun experiences with load shedding?
So much fun. Well, Nana, you actually mentioned that your load shedding has never extended past the 2 hours.
Yeah.
I once had this time long ago, like when I first started teaching, there was load shedding and I was, prepared. I had my UPS and everything. And after the 2 hour mark, we still had no power. And so I was freaking out, of course, but luckily my UPS did last for all my classes, but it was so stressful. I was like, what on earth is going on? Why is this longer than the 2 hour schedule? So for me, that was the worst. So like I said earlier, always make sure you have a backup for your backup, because you just never know, especially in South Africa, you just never know. Anything just can go wrong. So just make sure that you are always prepared.
Yeah, that's about it. That's all that there is to say about it. It's just know when it's going to happen. Make sure you've invested in really good backups. And like you said, have a backup for your backup, because many times my UPS has not done what it's needed to. So I've needed to go to my phone or, the next thing that I have in place. So so if you have any experiences with teaching online in South Africa and load shedding, or if you're not in South Africa and you've had experiences with power cuts and you are an online teacher, please let us know in the comments down below. We'd love to hear your experiences and how it's affected your ability to teach online if you are teaching online. So thanks for watching and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Become a TEFL expert with IQTEFL. Go to our website www.iqtefl.com to find out more.